All righty. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lars Henriksen. Today is High Impact Prospecting. This is part of the FYR University Momentum Monday. We do this pretty much every Monday morning at 9 a.m. live for you. And we do record this and we put this in the fabulous FYR University YouTube channel. That's FYR University. So you can find us on YouTube and please tap into that resource because I, along with about 8 other instructors, love sharing what we've learned over the years in real estate to help you grow your business. So thanks for tuning in. Today's class is high impact prospecting. So I'm going to start the class with kind of getting your mind ready for what I have to share with you. I've studied and worked with agents for many years. I've learned that there are some agents that are extremely successful that grow their business every year. And then there are other agents that either have a roller coaster business or some of them are just straight flat line where they're not doing a lot of business at all. So what I want to do is help you today with ideas on how to prospect so that you can generate leads, you can focus at least an hour a day of growing your business through scripts and dialogue that I'll share with you today. And if you want a copy of these slides, just put your email address in the chat and Kristen will be sure to send you the slides once I send them to her. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is talk to you about your real estate paradigm. So I'm going to read to you one of my favorite stories. It's called Bananas, Food for Thought. And this is about habits. It's how your habits begin in the real estate business. So follow along with me, if you will. So Bananas, Food for Thought. So we're going to start with a cage. We're going to put 5 apes in the cage. In the cage, we're going to hang a banana on a string, and we're going to put stairs under it. And before long, an ape's going to go to the stairs and start to climb towards the banana. And as soon as that ape touches the stairs, we spray the apes with cold water. They all get drenched in cold water. So the ape doesn't want to go up the stairs because he knows if he does, he's going to get sprayed with cold water. After a while, another ape makes the attempt with the same results. All the apes are sprayed with cold water. This continues through several more attempts. Pretty soon, when another ape tries to climb the stairs, the other apes try to prevent it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove one of the original 5 apes, replace it with a new one. The newcomer goes to the stairs and he is attacked. He sees the banana, he wants to get the banana, and the other apes attack him. The previous newcomer that has been replaced takes part in the punishment with enthusiasm. Then we're going to replace a third original ape with a new one. The new one makes it to the stairs and is attacked as well. 2 of the 4 apes that beat him up have no idea why they weren't allowed to climb the stairs or why they're participating in the beating of the newest ape. So they don't even know about the cold water. And the moral of the story is this. After we've replaced the 4th and 5th original apes, all the apes that had been sprayed with the cold water originally have been replaced. Nevertheless, no ape ever approaches the stairs. And the question is, why not? It's because that's the way they've always done it, and that's the way it's always been around here. And that is how many agents begin their real estate policies. And what I've learned is that if you're not getting the right training from the very beginning, it's really easy to develop bad habits. And according to the National Association of Realtors last year, 71% of agents went the entire year without a single transaction. And it's shocking to even say that out loud. It's really true. And so over the years, I learned that if I can help you with your paradigm, where you realize that this business is really about generating leads and spending at least an hour every single day prospecting. And I'm going to give you some ideas on how to do that today. Yeah, and you'll really never run out of people to call. In fact, a guy named Dirk Zeller, who's a great trainer, he wrote a book called Real Estate for Dummies. He wrote Your First Year in Real Estate. I suggest you get both of them. He says that there are as many ways to prospect as there are people. So today we're going to talk about high impact prospecting, and I'll compare that to low impact prospecting. So you see the next slide, it says lip and hip, and think about odds. So some examples of low odds activities, we're familiar with open houses. We're familiar with Zillow leads, online leads, social media leads. Print advertising used to be a big source of marketing. Very low odds that somebody will select you as an agent. So we call those LIP, or low impact activities. In a little bit, we'll be talking about high impact activities. So you want to be thinking about the odds. And when I teach this class here in Northern Virginia, I actually pull up statistics from the two counties that do the most business, Fairfax County and Loudoun County. And I share with the agents how many closings took place over the last 30 days. And I just pull up market statistics. Your local association of realtors should have that provided for you. And what I do is I take the number of closings over the last 30 days, I multiply that by 2, a seller side and a buyer side, and then I divide it by all of the agents that are competing for that business. And the odds, and I usually write it up on the board, the odds are usually something like 0.000138. So the odds are very low that on any given day, it will be you at the closing table. And I can also tell you, in a little bit, we'll talk about tracking your numbers. I can also tell you that if you go back 60 days, and so if you look, today is June 22nd. If you look at what you were doing on April 22nd, if you generated a lot of leads that day, you're probably going to closing this week, because it's about a 60-day cycle. You generate a hot lead, maybe somebody you've been incubating, and you go on an appointment, and you start working with them, whether it's a buyer or a seller. Usually about 45 to 60 days later, you're going to have a closing. That's just how this business works. So the question is, if the odds are that low, like 1/10 of 1%, that it will be you on any given day, what are you doing with your business, with your time? How are you investing your time to increase the odds that it will be you at the closing table? I like to talk about investments versus expenses. If you're an investor, I know there are a lot of us on the call that are investors. When we invest our time or our money into something, what do we expect to get back? We expect a return. So when you're investing money, you want to look at what kind of a return are you getting? It can't be just a break even. So if you're buying Zillow leads, for instance, if you're paying for leads, what is the return on that? And everything else is an expense. So if it's a straight line, you're not going to get anything out of it. Well, that's treated as an expense. And we have expenses like our dues, our Bright MLS, our MLS fees, things like that. You want to look at how are you investing your money and how are you investing your time, and look at what are the highest return items. So name tags. A lot of agents wear name tags. And if you think about it, if you're wearing a name tag and you're out and about in the public, what are the odds that somebody's going to bring up real estate if they see that you have your name and your company name on that name tag? I wore a name tag for years as an agent as well as a managing broker. And whenever I would go out to a store, I can tell you so many stories about how somebody would come up to me and they would think I was working at the local supermarket. And I wouldn't say, well, I don't work here. I would say, let's go find it. And then they'd realize that I don't actually work there. And then the conversation might come up that, hey, you're in real estate. I was thinking about buying a house. Or they might ask you, how's the market? And my response was always, it's a great time for both buyers and sellers. It really depends upon your situation. Why do you ask? And I think that's one of the best replies you can ever come up with. So name tags, increasing the odds that somebody will bring up real estate. Car signs. I had an agent a few years ago that had a car sign. It was Thanksgiving Day, and they were driving around town, and there was this car that was following them. And they finally pulled into a parking lot, and the car that had been following them saw that they were a real estate agent, and they said, hey, we didn't mean to freak you out. We need an agent. We're looking to sell our house in Arlington. We want to buy a house out here in Loudoun County. Can you help us? And folks, that resulted in a $2 million buyer-seller transaction. So are car signs increasing the odds or decreasing the odds that somebody will think of you when it comes to real estate? And, if you live in a neighborhood, one of the worst feelings you can have is to have one of your neighbors list their home with somebody else. I always blame you, the agent, for that. End result, if you have a car sign on your car, guess what? The odds are greater that your neighbors will know what you do. They're probably going to see you all around town. You're more likely to be a safe driver because you don't want to cut somebody off in traffic with your car sign. And you're more likely to have a nice car that you keep clean. So all kinds of benefits to having a car sign on your car. And then the last is professional attire. I know this changes over the years, with more people working from home, with all of the tech people that wear shorts and golf shirts to work. However, you should never dress below the level of your client, and so you should always be on par. Because if I'm listing a $2 million house, I'm not going to show up in shorts and a t-shirt. So investing in yourself, investing in professional attire, increases the odds that the person that you're working with, or the general public for that matter, will see a confident, successful business professional, real estate professional. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how much you're worth. So how many of you, and you don't have to answer this because in the interest of time, I do want to get through these slides today. Think about how many of you know what is your worth per hour? And when you look at your career before you got into real estate, when you considered taking on a job, one of the most important criteria was what you'll get paid per hour or per year in a salary. And I can tell you, most agents, because of bananas food for thought, you know what? You don't go into this business understanding what your value is. So I want you to think about how many hours a week are you actually working in real estate? What is your annual income goal? And if you take the number of hours you're working, divide it into what you need to make as your goal, you're going to come up with your dollar per hour. And once you've reestablished that, it will shift your paradigm on how you invest your time. And I like to give you the analogy of, if I was starting a company today and I said to all of you, at the end of the week, I want you to turn in your timesheet. I'll give you 3 different activities to choose from. Activity A, activity B, activity C. Every hour you spend activity A, I will pay you $1,281 an hour. For every hour you spend in activity B, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour. And for every hour you spend in activity C, I will pay you $0. And if you think about it, how will you spend your time? Most likely all of you would say activity A. Well, let's break that down into real estate. In real estate, every hour you spend prospecting, believe it or not, agents that track this, they know they make over $1,200 an hour. And that comes through generating leads, generating referral opportunities that you can refer business to other people throughout the country and really throughout the world. So that's your highest dollar per hour return, is always going to be leads generation. And most agents never fully understand that. They just wait for the phone to ring. For every hour you spend in activity B, I will pay you $15 an hour. And that's what you can pay an assistant. And, it might be you need somebody maybe $20 an hour. Maybe if they're a virtual assistant, you pay them even less. So that for every hour that you spend doing the work that an assistant can do for you, that's $15 an hour work. And then according to NAR last year, 71% of agents spent the entire year doing activity C. I hate to tell you that, $0 per hour. So I want you to really wrap your mind around that, establish your worth. And if it's not going to bring that kind of a return, then don't do it. And when I was an agent in production, I started tracking my billable hours per transaction. And I realized that throughout the entire transaction, especially working with sellers, I was usually netting about $300 an hour. So if you think about it, that's what you should be charging per transaction. It's about $300 an hour. And it's a lot less when you're working with buyers in most cases. So just think about that. The money is in listings. All right. So how to spend your time? What's your definition of work? Are you confusing busyness with business? I can tell you, if you're surfing the internet on social media all day and you're not generating leads, you're probably going to be getting paid $0 per hour. On the other hand, if you invest at least 1 hour a day, which is what professionals in this business do, they're running a business, you're actually increasing the odds and your dollar per hour. And, nowadays with videos and with CRMs and with social media, you should be spending at least 2 hours a day marketing your business. And if you have nothing in your pipeline, that's exactly how you should be spending your time. And I'd be happy to meet with any one of you one-on-one to give you some more ideas on how to do that. If you have a CRM, you should be using landing pages and squeeze pages to generate a leads funnel. And if you're with our company, EXP, you've got 3 different ones to choose from. I can tell you they pay off in great dividends. I want to talk about the history of print ads and marketing. Things have changed. And, when you think about online leads, the odds are very low. You have to go through a lot of leads. And some agents have done really well with Zillow, and then all of a sudden it just dries up and they're left scratching their heads. So, Zillow leads, I would say it's a very low odds that you will make a living doing Zillow leads, and you have to pay that hefty referral fee. So I'm going to teach you ways to generate leads that are not going to cost you any money at all. Okay. All right. I love this story, the $86,400. So just imagine you have a bank that credits your account every morning with that amount of money. And the catch is that it carries over no balance from day to day. Every evening it's going to wipe out whatever you didn't use. So what would you do? You're going to draw out every single penny. So every one of us has that account, and it's called time. And every morning we all get the same amount of time every day, 86,400 seconds. And every night it's going to write off as lost whatever you failed to invest for a good purpose. So there's no balance carryover. There's no overdraft. Every day we get the same amount of time. And every night it burns away the remains of the day. So if you fail to use the day's deposits, it's your loss. There's no going back. There's no drawing against tomorrow. So you have to live in the present on today's deposits. So I invest every moment to get the biggest return every day. So I get health, happiness, and success. So the clock is running, make the most of today. And to put it in perspective, to look at time frames, the 1 year example, ask a child who failed a grade, has to make up an entire year. To realize the value of a month, ask the mother who gave birth to a premature baby. To realize the value of a week, ask the editor of a weekly newspaper. To realize the value of an hour, ask the lovers who are waiting to meet. To realize the value of a minute, ask the person who just missed their airplane, their train connection. To realize the value of a second, ask the person who just avoided an accident. To realize the value of a millisecond, ask that person who just lost to Michael Phelps in the Olympics in swimming, got the silver medal, not the gold. Treasure every moment you have, and treasure it even more when you share it with somebody special, someone worth investing your time in. Time waits for no one. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. We are all given the same amount of time. Some of us simply choose to use it differently. I really want you to think about, how are you investing your time in the real estate business? All right, let's think like a consumer. As a consumer, how do you choose service providers? So what do? You usually ask for a referral. If you somebody that has a nice haircut, a nice hairstyle, what might you do? If you're looking for a new barber, a new hairstylist, you might say, hey, where do you go? Well, if you think like a consumer, if I had 2 different mechanics, let's say, my car's in the shop today, and maybe I'm new in town and I'm driving a car and I see one of my neighbors has the same car, and I say, hey, where do you have your car worked on? And your neighbor says, well, there's really 2 places I go, but one of them recently asked me if I would be comfortable and confident referring new clients to them. Okay, well, who are you as a consumer more likely to refer that business to? Probably the one who's looking to grow their business. Okay, so I want you to think like a consumer when you're building your real estate business. So, all right, so here's where we're going to get into the nitty gritty, the prospecting process. Visualize your pipeline. So the goal is to generate leads, to put in a pipeline, and eventually you start building that pipeline more and more because you're investing so much of your time building a pipeline of business that eventually it comes out the other end. We were on a call this morning, and several of the agents on the call had closings this week and next week because they were spending their time, they're investing their time building their pipeline of business. And folks, eventually it pays off. So let's talk about the telephone. The phone, your friend. So face to face, when you're meeting with somebody belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball, That's always more effective because you're able to use 100% communication. That's the words, which is 7% of effective communication, tonality, which is 38%, and then 55% of effective communication is actually nonverbal body language. That's why you want to use the phone to generate leads and to qualify leads. You never, ever want to sell on the phone. You want to get face to face with people. So think about that. The goal is to generate leads, to qualify leads, and then to close for the appointment. So the telephone is more efficient because I can call 15 people in an hour as long as I have a plan, I've got the list in front of me, I know who I'm going to call. And as a matter of fact, when I was in production, I had a goal of calling 15 people a day. And I'm going to share with you what I did. 5 of those calls were to my sphere of influence. And I'm going to give you one of the best approaches I've ever come across with connecting with your sphere of influence today. And then the other 10 I will talk about in a little bit. So I want you to think about hot calls, warm calls, and cold calls. Well, I know most of you hate making cold calls. The good news is that if you follow along today and you learn what I'm teaching and you actually put it into practice, you will never, ever have to make another cold call again. In fact, to me, a cold call is opening up the old phone books that we used to get and just picking out a name out of the phone book and calling them. And I remember the movie The Jerk, starring Steve Martin. He was a guy named Navin Johnson, and that's how the fellow that started shooting at him, it chose Navin Johnson to receive that very unkind action. So that's, you don't have to do that. You want to make warm calls and hot calls. So the first call, the hottest call of all, is for sale by owners. If you think about when you see for sale by owners in your marketplace, what are the odds that when you call a for sale by owner, they're looking to sell their house? Okay. Now, FSBO, we know it as for sale by owner. Well, guess what? It's actually the fastest source of a business opportunity. So I call it the easy FSBO warm call. And the more you focus on finding for sale by owners to call, the more likely you will call them. So this is one of the greatest dialogues you'll ever learn about calling FSBOs. The goal is to get in the door to preview the home. So when I was an agent, I made 15 calls a day, and I previewed 5 homes a day, 25 a week. That was, and I did it every week. I usually previewed homes after lunch. So if I got the buffet, I wasn't feeling that guilty about overeating because I was going to work it off when I previewed homes. And if there's a FSBO that you're going to go see, include that in your preview. In fact, preview the FSBO's competition and then go see that FSBO. So here's how you get the appointment. Good morning. This is Lars Henriksen with FYR Realty here in Loudoun County. I'm just calling to see are you the owner of the home for sale? And most likely you're going to get a yes. Great. Is it still available? It sure is. Wonderful. When can I take a look at your home? Is this afternoon good or would tomorrow be better? So you want to give them 2 choices. Now I previewed every afternoon, so I would usually get in the door that afternoon or the next afternoon. Remember this though, folks. Most FSBOs are not evil monsters. They want to sell their home. They know that we work with more buyers than they do, okay? And what you're looking for is the time problem, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So that's how you get in the door. So when is a good time for me to take a look at your home? Is today good or is tomorrow a better day for you? Well, why do you want to see my home? Well, Mr. FSBO, as a specialist in your neighborhood, part of my job is to keep up with all of the available inventory. So when would be a good time for me to see your home? Is today good or would tomorrow be a better time for you? And I love this one too. They're going to ask you, do you have a buyer? Well, you know what? If you lie, like Judge Judy says, you don't have to have a good memory. So I'm not going to lie to them. I'm going to say, I won't know until I've seen your home. So when's a good time for me to come by? You want to close for the appointment. And then you could also say, as an investor, I like to keep abreast of all the available inventory. When's a good time for me to come by and see your home? Is today good or tomorrow better? What happens is 85% of the time, the FSBO runs out of time, gets frustrated, and guess what they end up doing, folks? They end up listing with an agent. And they're going to list with an agent that more likely saw their home while it was on the market as a for sale by owner. And what you want to do is get into the home, find the time problem. I teach a great class on this on for sale by owners, and Kristen, I can't remember if I've actually done it in the FYR University, but we can load that up if we need to. So you want to get in the door and find the time problem. So this is the easy call, and folks, they're not mean people. They want you to see their home. And what I did is I would preview that home last. I would see the competition, and I would bring my notebook or my clipboard with all of the other listings as I was going through the FSBO's home, and I was comparing that for sale by owners listing to the ones that I had just seen. So great way to build up your pipeline. If they're successful here in our market, they may need an agent on the other end. You can ask them those questions as well. Who's helping you find a home where you're moving to? Okay. Now, this is for agents that have more business than they can handle. So this is a little more assertive. So it's the same beginning. Good morning. This is Lars Henriksen with FYR Realty here in Northern Virginia. Are you the owner of the home that's for sale? You're going to get a yes. And then this is more assertive. You're going to see this. When will you be interviewing listing agents to get your home sold? So it's a totally different tone than the first call, isn't it? So if you're not as confident, if you don't have a lot of business, I would go with the first call. The second call is, man, you're just putting yourself out there, aren't you? So you know what, Lars, we're thinking about interviewing folks in the next couple of weeks. We're kind of getting frustrated. It's been on the market for a while. Folks, you're going to hear that if you make the call. Hey, that's great. How can I get on your interview list? Okay. And if they say, we're never going to interview an agent, then say, hey, that's great. When can I take a quick look at your home? Would today be good or is tomorrow better? I'll be out in your neighborhood both days previewing homes that are for sale. Part of my job is to keep up with everything that's available. And you said yours is still available. So when would be a good time for me to come by and see your home? I'm available this afternoon, or would tomorrow be better? If they want to have you come by over the weekend because they're sitting the house open the entire weekend, which really puts them at a disadvantage because they've got to be there to have the house shown. And most buyers won't speak about how they really feel or think about the home with the owner home, which is one of the reasons why so many for sale by owners end up listing with an agent. So if they say that, what I used to say is, I'll tell you what, I'll try to make it over this weekend. And if I can't make it, is it okay if I call you on Monday? Okay, so my time to call FSBOs was usually on Friday mornings and on Monday mornings. And a lot of the Monday morning FSBO calls were to follow up from that previous Friday. Okay, so you can kind of lock that into your prospecting time. Remember, folks, it's $1,281 an hour that you can average by spending your time generating leads. It's the highest dollar per hour activity. Bananas, food for thought. Who told you that? Okay, they didn't teach you that in pre-licensing. All right, this is a great call, the expired warm call. So expired and canceled listings, there's hundreds of them, folks, hundreds of them. This is what I did. I taught a guy named Boomer Foster. He ended up becoming the president of Long and Foster. He had no sphere of influence. We didn't feed him leads, even though he was Wes Foster's nephew. What we did is we taught him how to call expired and canceled listings, as well as calling around listings, which I'll get to in a little bit. So every day there are expired and canceled listings, and you can find their phone numbers in all different places for Warren, white pages. You can subscribe to different call lists. So I would say, good morning. This is Lars Henriksen with FYR Realty here in Loudoun County. Reason I'm calling this morning, I want to find out if you still plan on selling your home. Okay. And you're going to get either a yes or a no. So if they say, yeah, we really needed to get it sold. We were really hoping that it would sell by now. So yeah, we definitely need to get it sold. Hey, that's great. When is a good time for me to come by today to meet with you? I'm available later this morning or this afternoon, because folks, I want to get in there before somebody else does. I track this. I know what agents in my marketplace excel at getting expired and canceled listings to list with them. And some of them, it's shocking how much business they get. And they've been coached by the Tom Ferries and the Mike Ferries on how to do this. And this is right out of their playbook. Okay. And if they say no, just say, hey, thank you so much. If your plans change, would you mind keeping my number handy? I'm at 703-220-1876. Again, it's Lars Henriksen with FYR Realty. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Okay. So those are two ways that even if you don't have a sphere of influence, you've got to get out of your comfort zone. I encourage you to practice this so that you internalize the dialogue, so that you don't sound like you're reading something. I would suggest getting a couple of role playing partners to help you practice. I always say it's like playing tennis or skiing. If you want to get better at something, find somebody who's better at you, better than you at doing this, and then find somebody who you can help along that may not be as strong. So get a couple of role playing partners. Most professionals that do this kind of prospecting, they role play every single morning before they make their call. So get warmed up, okay? And then if I get the answering machine, which you will, then I would left this message. I'd say, good morning, this is Lars Henriksen with FYR Realty. I have a very important question to ask you regarding the sale of your home. Will you please call me back at your earliest convenience? I can be reached at 703-220-1876. Again, it's Lars Henriksen with FYR Realty. And my phone number is 703-220-1876. See how I slowed my pace down? I want to give you my number twice. Thank you so much and have a great day. When you practice this, you want to use your real phone number, okay? You want to imprint on your non-conscious mind that you're rewriting that circuitry. You want to use real things, your real company, your real phone number, okay? And then the beauty of this is that if you make a lot of those calls and you're leaving a lot of messages, when people call back, I didn't even worry about remembering who I called, because if they call me back, and maybe 50% of the time they will, I would, they say, hey, you called about, you had a question about the sale of my home. So this would be for FSBOs, expired and canceled listings. I would say, oh yeah, I made about 20 calls today. Can you remind me who are you? What's your situation? So I ask some open-ended questions and they say, yeah, we're the for sale by owner. Oh, great. Is that the one over on Madison Avenue? Yep. Great. Just calling to see if it was still available. Yeah, it is. Wonderful. When is a good time for me to come by and see it? I'm going to be previewing homes tomorrow afternoon as well as on Friday afternoon. What day works better for you? Okay. Why do you want to see my home? Well, as a specialist in your neighborhood, part of my job is to keep abreast of all available inventory, so you're still available. So when's a good time for me to come by and see it? See, I can do it at any speed because I practice this all the time. And then if they say, if you have a buyer, do you have a buyer yet? Well, sir, I won't know until I've seen your home. When is a good time for me to come by and see it? Okay. You guys following along? Good. All right. Next. Your sphere. Oh my goodness. You guys all have friends, right? If you don't have friends, man, you better go out and get some, because this is where most of our business comes from. So this is the facts. Now I have a whole class that Kristen has recorded on FYR University on how to leverage your sphere of influence. I want you to check that out. It's got a lot more detail on how to really cultivate those relationships. So let's just talk about this in terms of phone calls. So these are facts. These are people that love you the way you are. They want you to be successful. They're not going to say, oh, you can't do that. They're not your, if they do that, you're really not your fans. So here's the key. The contacts have to be consistent. I called my sphere of influence. I had about 100 A+ and A's. They were my advocates. I had 5 calls a day to my sphere, 20 days a month. I was touching every one of those 100 every month. And this is how I did it. And remember, you're pre-sold, so you're not spending money on Zillow leads. You're not, waiting for company-generated leads. It's the best return on your time, because these are people that already know you. They're already your fans. And you know what? The old saying, out of sight, out of mind. If you never call them, they will think you're either too busy for a referral, or that maybe they'll think that you're out of the business. It just didn't work out. So the reason it works is you're going to condition their reticular activating system, the RAS, the RAS. That's part of your brain stem. We all have it. It's triggered when we hear or see something that resonates with us, like the kind of car you drive, or the moms who just found out they're pregnant. Guess what? They start seeing a lot of babies, a lot of pregnant women, and even some of the men look pregnant. God bless. So that's how it works. So over time, over a few months of calling your sphere every month and just being helpful, I'll go over the dialogue in a minute. Every time they think about real estate, they're going to start thinking about you. And when they think about you, they're going to be thinking about real estate. They're your eyes and ears. And eventually, the more advocates you have that are out looking for buyers and sellers for you, guess what? The more opportunities you have, the less time you're going to have to be worrying about filling your pipeline, because now you're working basically through referrals. That's when you add the other calls, which we'll get to. We've already covered a couple of them. If you want to grow your business, you want to add to your routine. So you start with your sphere. These are warm calls, and then you can build in a few other ways as well. All right, there are 7 steps, which I'll go over. There's an introduction, a question, a favor, an opt-in, whether or not they're going to opt in to play with you. You're going to confirm it. You're going to get permission for a follow-up contact, and you're going to say thank you. All 7 steps are critically important to use. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Hey, Chi, it's Lars. I'm calling to let you know I'm selling real estate with the XP Realty. You might have already known that. And Chi, I have a question and a huge favor to ask you. Okay, what is it? Well, Chi, whenever you or somebody that you know has a real estate need, who is your resource? And most of your friends will either say you, or they're going to say, I don't have anybody. In fact, if you ask a stranger, I'm just curious, whenever you or somebody that you know needs help with real estate, who's your go-to person? The number one answer is, I don't have anybody. And I test this pretty much every single day when I'm out and about. Okay. So if they say, geez, Lars, I really don't have anybody. Well, would you do me a favor? Gee, if you come across somebody this year who is looking to buy or sell a house and you thought I would be a good fit, would you be comfortable and would you be confident referring them to me? And most of your friends are going to say, of course, we think you're going to be great. Or, that's if you're new. And if you've been doing this for a while, don't hesitate to reach out to people that you haven't spoken to in a while. And just, you modify the dialogue a little bit by just saying, hey, just calling to remind you, I'm still selling real estate at eXp Realty. Having a busy year. I'm never too busy for a referral from a friend like you. I've got a question and a big favor to ask you. Okay. And you know the question. And then the favor, I've learned that 86% of the time when you ask a friend or even a stranger, hey, would you do me a favor? They say yes. And that's how most human beings are. We're predisposed to want to help. And if they're not the right people, they might say no. That's usually not the case. Okay. So if they opt in and say, of course, Lars, I'd be happy to help you. Hey, that's wonderful. Would it be okay with you, like check back with you once in a while during the year, just to see if you've come across anybody like that? Could be a neighbor, a friend, maybe a relative, maybe somebody you work with is making a move. Love to help them. Great. Wonderful. So I'll plan to call you, let's say middle of next month. In the meantime, have a happy 4th of July, make it relative to the time of the year. And thanks again. I'm really delighted that you're willing to do that. Okay. There it is, more spelled out. So I'm going to give you these slides. So I use kind of this structure. This is what it looks like. And see, I wasn't reading it, was I? I've internalized this. I do it over and over and over. And folks, I can tell you that agents that use this that have been trained and coached by me over the years, it works like a charm. It's one of the best dialogues I've ever learned to use. So this is for your A pluses and your A's. These are people that already know you. They love you. They want you to be successful. They see you as a resource. Okay. Now, here's the second call and all the calls after that. Remember, I did it once a month. I had 100 people in my A pluses and A's. Those are people that love me. They've sent referrals to me, or they've said, yes, when I come up with that opportunity, Lars, you're the guy. So I'd call them back and say, hey, Chi, it's Lars. It was great seeing you last weekend. Today's our business call from last month. Just calling to check in and see if you've come across anybody that's looking to buy or sell a house. And she, she's been busy. She was in Italy. She's been traveling all over the world. She's going to say, oh, Lars, geez, we were so busy, kind of forgot about it. Hey, that's perfectly okay. Chi, there's a really good chance you'll know 3 or 4 families this year that are making a move. Love to help 1 or 2 of them. Could be somebody in the neighborhood that's moving, maybe somebody you work with. Would love to help them. Is it okay if I check back with you next month? And she's going to say, of course. Yeah. So now it's going to be August. Here's what happens, folks. Every 90 to 120 days, those people in your sphere will know somebody moving. It's about 3 to 4 families a year. So it's every 90 to 120 days. So pretty good odds. Now, what I learned to do, thanks to Brian Buffini, because as you know me, I'm an equal opportunity thief. I've stolen from the best trainers in the business. I learned from Buffini to send them something of value. And instead of buying the Buffini program, I've helped agents save thousands of dollars by not buying into that program just by asking this question. Listen to this. So Chi, when I call you back in August, what are some things that you and your family could use regarding your real estate needs? You had mentioned that you wanted to finish your basement, or you mentioned you wanted to put a pool in the backyard, or you had mentioned that you thought your neighbor's fence was encroaching on your property, or back in the day of the low interest rates, which we'll have again, you had mentioned that you were thinking about refinancing your loan. If you're going to be in your home for the next 2 years or more, now may be a great time to do that. And we have so many people in the country that refinanced at below 3%. So, talk about unintended consequences. A lot of them are staying put just because of that. So a lot of agents I've coached over the years, that's what they did. They reached out and said, hey, now may be a great time to refinance. Can I get you in touch with my lender friends? So think of ways to add value by asking them, what do they need? It could be that they just need a good referral for a restaurant, or maybe find out more about the farmer's market. That'll give you ideas on what to put into your newsletter that you should be sending out every month. Okay. All right. So remember, the sphere loves you just the way you are. The most effective script is just to be yourself. It's critically important to make sure that they want to help you grow your business. You don't want to be pushy. And when you incorporate all of those 7 steps into your contacts, you're giving them every opportunity to graciously not help you. Be sure to use all 7. Remember, you need to practice this. And again, Kristen has a really good video on our YouTube channel called Leveraging Your Sphere of Influence, which gives you ideas on how to make 30 touches a year. Now, for people that are what Brian Buffini would consider Bs, people that they need to know more about you and your business. You really need to cultivate that relationship. Or maybe you're just not that comfortable yet calling them with the opt-in dialogue that I just went over. Then this is Plan B. It's a great way to connect with your sphere of influence. Now, this could be that you're making them these calls quarterly. Okay, these are people that don't know you as well. Maybe it's a friend of a friend. Maybe it's somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, and you don't want to sound salesy. You want to make it about them. So we call it forward. So if I called up Chi and I say, hey, Chi, it's Lars. Haven't seen you in a while. Just calling to see how you and your family are doing. She may say, oh my gosh, Lars, I'm so glad you're calling because my aunt is thinking about selling her house. Could you help her? I'd love to. Or it could be, Lars, we just had our 4th child and we're in a 3-bedroom. We really need to move. Can you help us? Or it could be, Lars, our last kid just graduated from college. They're not moving back home. Thank goodness, they're off the payroll. So we need to downsize. It could be somebody in their family, unfortunately, passed away. It could be somebody's getting married, and instead of paying $100,000 for a wedding, they want to make a down payment on their first home. Wonderful. And then in Loudoun County, I think the divorce rate is around 80%. I don't know. It's pretty high. So in a lot of the area, there's high divorce rates. If you call and say, hey, Chi, it's Lars, or maybe I shouldn't use Chi as an example. It's, hey, Tony, it's Lars. Come see how you and your family are doing. Oh my gosh, Lars, you might have heard we're getting a divorce. It's okay. It's amicable. We're selling the house. Can you help us? So look for opportunities for them to bring up real estate. You can talk about how's work going, because a lot of people love talking about work. So look for moves up, out, or over at their place of business. If you read the book Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall, an excellent book, he talks about his, I think he calls it his 8 and 8 touches in 8 weeks. And it turned out somebody he had met, I think in a business mixer over a few week period, finds out that this guy who wasn't even Larry's client originally had a whole division moving from San Diego to Fort Collins, Colorado, where Larry was. And he wanted to know if Larry and his team would help them with like 25 families move to Fort Collins. So it's a great call to make. How's work going? Look for expansions, maybe layoffs, maybe somebody's getting ready to retire. How's work going? Oh my gosh, Lars, I'm so glad you called. We're finally there. We're going to retire. We're going to move to North Carolina. Can you help us? Okay, that happens a lot, folks. And then R is, what are you guys doing for fun? Well, Lars, we go to the Outer Banks every year. We stay in the same house, and we just found out that they're thinking about selling it. Can you help us? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to find somebody who specializes in that down in the Outer Banks, and I will get. I'll have them get in touch with you. Let me do a little vetting, and I'll be sure to have them contact you. That's a referral, folks. Referrals. That's your highest dollar per hour activity, because you get 25 to 30% of the commission just by making a phone call. if you actually track your hours invested, really minutes invested, it might be 2 hours over a 90-day period. Do the math, folks. It's usually about $2,500 an hour. And then D is for dreams. This is when you're out, you may be having coffee, maybe having a cocktail. And especially as you get into the older generation like myself, where you're thinking about retirement, I'm still a ways away, don't worry. You say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What can I do to help you get there? Okay. So are you going to get the big house on the hill or up in the mountains? Are you going to retire at the beach? What does that look like? And as you get older, that's something you'll be thinking about as well. So those are great conversations to have. So that's forward. All right, geez, we only have 10 more minutes. I need to run through these. So this is the next one. I love this. Whenever I had a listing, I called around listings. So I would get public tax records. I would make sure that I called every single neighbor. We called it 5-5-10. I would call the 5 people on either side of the house and the 10 people across the street. Once the yard sign went up, they've already gotten this call. So it's good morning, Lars Henriksen with eXp Realty. The reason I'm calling this morning, I want to let you know that I just listed your neighbor's house. It's at 1234 Main Street. We're listing it for $800,000. It's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and a beautiful gourmet kitchen. And often folks have friends or family members that are interested in moving to the neighborhood. I was just wondering who you might know. Okay. Oh, we really don't know anybody. Well, I can understand that. Would you mind keeping your eyes and ears open for me in the sellers? Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Wonderful. Great. Again, my name is Lars Henriksen. My number is 703-220-1876. Thanks so much. Have a great day. So if I called 20 people around my listing, I knew like a Swiss watch that 2 of those 20 people were thinking about moving. Okay. 16 of them I may not get in touch with. I may leave a message, or maybe I get in touch with them and they're keeping their ears and eyes open. And folks, I'm going to warn you right now, there's always going to be a couple of the neighbors that are not that friendly. And, they might be on the do not call list, so don't call them back. Okay. And just be nice to them. I would have fun with them. I'm saying, sir, let me ask you a question. When you sell your house, is this a service you'd like your agent to provide for you? So I would kind of have fun with them and, lighten it up, because maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe you say, hey, sir, what can I do to help you with your life? Okay. So I'll leave that one up to you. Now, when it goes under contract, this is the second call. If it's ratified and there's only one offer and you get it ratified, I wouldn't call this call until I've removed all the contingencies. Okay. If you get multiple offers though, and there's a whole other class called leveraging your listing, which we have in the FYR University, then it talks more about how to do this in more detail. But this is a great dialogue. I want to let you know we found buyers for the home at 1234 Main Street. I'm just calling to say thank you for keeping your ears and eyes open. Easy call to make. And if they ask about the price, I can say, well, actually, I can't disclose that until the property goes to closing. It closes in 2 weeks. Would you like to know at that time? And if they mention moving, you would say, well, you had mentioned that you may be moving this spring or this summer. So when's a good time for us to meet? Okay. And now if you did both ends of it, where you were also working with a buyer, in Virginia, we call that dual agency, then, hey, thanks again. I'm going to call you when it closes, and I'm going to invite you to get to know your new neighbor party. They've got some kids and and a friendly puppy that I want you to meet. So I'll let you know when that happens. Okay. I'm making deposits in that neighborhood. And then when it goes to closing, good morning, Lars Henriksen, eXp Realty. Hey, Lars. Oh, man, I saw the moving truck. I saw, hey, I got to meet the neighbors. They seem so nice. Thank you for bringing a nice family into the neighborhood. Hey, that's wonderful. By the way, when over list price, we actually settled at $810,000. So we're really excited about that. And if appropriate, you could say you had mentioned that you might be moving this summer. When's a good time for you to meet with me? I'd love to come over and see your house. Okay, close to the appointment. And then again, if you're doing the pizza party, voila, you have that. And then I'm not going to read this. This is very similar to the listing call. This is when you have a buyer. They have established the type of home, the neighborhood that they want to move into, and there's nothing that meets their needs in the MLS. Folks, I use this. I usually did a door knocking campaign. I didn't want to put my buyers in competition with other buyers, which is what agents do. Remember bananas food for thought? That's what we've been trained to do, is to wait for things to pop up in the MLS. I'm going to go out and find that listing before somebody else does. Okay, so I door knocked. I would pull up public tax records in that neighborhood. I would figure out who's lived there the longest. I would see if that home met my buyer's criteria. and I door knock, 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 knock. Good morning, Lars Henriksen. I'm with eXp Realty. I'm a real estate agent, and I'm popping by today because I have some folks that the Foxes actually, and they're looking for a home in your neighborhood. They're looking for a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home with a nice backyard like yours. There's nothing in the MLS that meets their needs. I was just wondering who you might know that could be moving this summer. And if they know somebody, and you know what, folks, believe it or not, I'm not making this up. I had a 100% success rate at doing this, because if you knock on enough doors, you have a good reason to, and don't make stuff up. You need to have legitimate buyers, okay? That you're going to find somebody who's making a move. Just trust me. And it might not be the person you spoke to, but they may know somebody in the neighborhood, and that's usually what happened. Okay, so that's a beautiful buyer warm call. Let me just skip through these slides. I'll get them to you. So that's just kind of the same thing. And then the sphere talk. This slide, we've got about 5 more minutes, so I just want to run through the next few slides. This just talks about rewarding the behavior of the referral. So you're going to get a referral from a sphere. You want to send them a thank you card and maybe a nice coffee shop gift card. Send them something that they'll value. Just say thank you for the behavior. Don't be focused on the result, because it may not pan out. If you get upset that it wasn't a good lead, you know what? Don't condemn that goose that gave you the golden egg. Okay. And what I did is whenever I got a referral that went to closing, I just took the referral source out to dinner, and I would say, "Hey, Suzanne, where would you like to go?" And then the next time I saw my referral base, I would say, "Hey, when are we going to DC Prime?" "Oh, well, don't I have to send you a referral that closes?" "Oh, yeah. But Suzanne, you'll probably know 3 or 4 families moving this year. Love to help 1 or 2 of them. Let's go have some steak." Okay. And this just, and again, I'll get you all these slides, but just talks more about why it's so important to reward the behavior and not worry about the results. Okay. So just some ideas: sending them a balloon bouquet, paper house full of treats. I've seen that. Make sure the treats haven't been expired for a long time, because I've seen that. Maybe a bottle of wine, maybe a pen or a notepad. So it's a great way to reinforce their behavior. Okay. I love this quote. One of my favorite quotes of all time, Mike Ferry. "Selling is numbers, pure and simple, in a conversation." You're going to fail in this business, even if you're good at what you do, but don't play the numbers game. You aren't giving yourself enough chances. You've got to make the necessary number of contacts. And like I said earlier, when you get really good at what you're saying, because you practice this dialogue over and over, like I have over the years, and you have to add energy and enthusiasm, eventually you don't have to make as many calls to be successful. Okay. And that comes from good old Mike Ferry, father of Tom and Matt. Great guy. All right. And then tracking your numbers. There's an old rule in communication that when your emotion is high, your intelligence is low. That's why it's critically important to keep track of good statistics and track your daily, weekly, and monthly activities, so that you can then measure your results. So I'm going to share with you on the next screen what numbers to track. Okay. It's contacts, leads, appointments, contracts, and closings, folks. I guarantee you that if you track your contacts made, your leads generated, your appointments for the week and for the day, the ratified contracts you have for the week and the day, and then the closings you have, those 5 numbers, CLACC, I guarantee you it's heavy lifting. It's a paradigm shift. If you do this for 90 days, you will see your business grow, not just geometrically, you'll see it grow exponentially. You really will. As we say, it's time on task over time. It's all about focusing on those contacts. Set a goal of number of contacts you can make every day. I did 15 a day, 5 in my sphere, 10 outside my sphere. I had certain days where I called around my listings. I had certain days where I called expireds and canceled. Those are usually every day. I called 3 or 4 in my marketplace. I called FSBOs usually on Mondays and Fridays. I had it all scheduled out. So I just followed my schedule. I tracked my numbers, and you can then start building ratios to see how many contacts you needed to have to generate a lead, and how many leads you needed to generate. Usually it's a 3-to-1 ratio for that. How many appointments you went on to get a contract is usually a 2-to-1 to 1-to-1 ratio. And then if you're writing good offers and you're accepting good offers for your clients, for sellers, it should be more of a 1-to-1 ratio for contracts to closings. Okay. And then I like to set expectations. So this is a good voicemail to to have when people call your business line. Hello, this is Lars Henriksen. I'm with FYR Realty. You reached my voicemail box. I'm returning calls today between 11:30 and 12 and 4:30 and 5. Please feel free to leave me a message, including your phone number, and I'll call you back then. Thanks for calling. Have a great day. That way, my day wasn't getting interrupted by all of these calls, because 90% of the time that your phone rings in the real estate business, it results in a non-income producing activity. So as long as you set your expectations, or the expectations with your client about how you work, they're going to know that you're going to return calls every day between 11:30 and 12 and between 4:30 and 5. And that way you're getting back to them within a couple of hours. Okay. And then previewing, I'm not going to belabor this. This is a great article by Neil Schwartz about the reasons to preview. I'll make sure you guys get this. And we're almost to the end, but this just tells you, look at 5 properties a day, 5 days a week. You're seeing 25 homes a month or a week. That's 100 homes a month. You will be the neighborhood expert, folks. I cannot emphasize how important this is, because the market changes every day. And then here's some topics that you should be well versed in. All of these. These are all the classes that I teach, and many of them are now recorded in the FYR University. Thank you, Kristen, for doing that. And I love these books. I'm a big believer in sharpening the saw. So you'll get this as well. These are some of the best books I've ever read. Some of them may be familiar to you, but I encourage you to really incorporate all of these into your library. And then the last one, I wrote this, stole from some people, but some thoughts to share. Focus more on what you have in your life and focus less on what you don't have, and your life becomes abundant. I feel more abundance than I've ever felt in my life. You want to be grateful. You want to be thankful. Count your blessings every day. If you take the Ninja Selling course, that's one of the first things that you do every morning, is to have a moment of gratitude. Concentrate then on what you want to bring into your life with your vision board, your dream board, and don't think about what you don't want in your life, and you really will live your dreams. I'm living a dream life. I really am. I have my friends pinch me all the time to make sure I'm not dreaming. Share your love. It comes back to you 1,000 times. Choose happiness over anger. Live every day as though you were afraid of nothing. What would you do differently when you become truly fearless? Get outside of your comfort zone. Life begins. All of the opportunities are in the fringes of your comfort zone. So where is your comfort zone today? My comfort zone, folks, it's in New Zealand, in Auckland, New Zealand. I can't even see it. I think it's tomorrow there. So I don't have a comfort zone. I just live to help people. That's my goal. So where does the best fruit on the tree grow? The furthest out on the limb. Be kind and generous with your thoughts and your love. Be the changes, like Gandhi said, that you want to see in your world, in your life, in your marketplace. It's never too late to become what you might have been. Okay, I think we are a little 2 minutes over, Kristen. Not too bad.
Not too bad.
So wow. So I hope you guys enjoyed that class today. And let me see what we have in the chat. We got all your emails, and thank you. So Kristen, I will email you this whole slide presentation so you guys can all have it.
Perfect.
Okay. And thank you for joining us. And again, Lars Henriksen. And if you guys ever need any help one-on-one, you can find me at lars.henriksen@exprealty.com. And I gave you my phone number a few times, 703-220-1876. I'm here to help every one of you on this call. And if you're listening on YouTube, feel free to reach out to me. And I promise you, I will get back to you and help you. Okay. So God bless. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Lars. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Lars. Always good.